What's up to my strapped and unstrapped community? I'm JJ, your host for Unstrapped The Podcast. In an attempt to describe myself in as few words as possible, I'm a 31-year-old blerd, black nerd, born and raised in New York City, who happens to identify as a stud or black masculine lesbian. I'm excited you've chosen to go on this journey with us. In this trailer, I hope to answer some burning questions you have about this podcast. If the shoe fits, you'll take the extra step towards listening to an episode, or even better, stick around for our episode drops every 2 weeks. Whether you're part of the community or just here to listen and learn, you're in the right place. So unstrap, sit back, and relax. Let's get into it. What does unstrapped mean? If you're a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race, then you know about the secondary show called Untucked, where drag queens untuck and reflect out loud about their experience on the show. I'll let you look up what the word untucked means. Unstrapped is more or less the same thing, but for us masculine lesbians, to speak about our lives as it relates to this part of our identity. A strap is slang for a strap-on harness, which is an adult toy that many, but not all of us, use for adult fun. Unstrapped is a made-up term that comes from both of these things. So what are we really unstrapping from? Unstrapped is more than just a reference to strap-on culture or a remix of the show Untucked. It's about peeling back the layers of assumption, stereotype, and silence that often surrounds masculine lesbians. We're unstrapping from shame, invisibility, from the pressure to fit into rigid molds. We're stepping out of survival mode and into spaces of vulnerability, joy, and truth. Being unstrapped is being real with ourselves, with each other, and with the world. So what is a masculine lesbian and how does that differ from being a stud? Although this may be obvious to some, being a masculine lesbian is about personality and style, not about trying to become a man, as the stereotype suggests. We often make gender-affirming choices in how we dress or carry ourselves. We are not a replacement for men. Being a stud adds another layer to this identity as it closely relates to being part of the black community. There is a long history behind it that I encourage you all to explore using your favorite search engine. Something important to flag is that the masculine lesbian community goes by many other labels, including the more well-known term butch, and some go by no labels. Why did I start this podcast? I've never leaned into this part of my identity, mostly due to not being surrounded by my own community and how negatively the world treats us. Now that I'm more confident about this part of me, surrounded by more like me, my life finally feels whole. I hope this platform connects us to each other, our siblings in the LGBTQIA+ community, and our allies. What makes this podcast unique? Look, I'm going above and beyond to find and interview masculine lesbians wherever they are. I'm set up to interview folks locally here in New York City or remotely from anywhere in the world. My goal is to make sure a variety of voices are heard. That's how we truly represent masculine lesbians as a whole, by reflecting our diversity in experience, style, background, and perspective. It's not easy work for a lot of reasons, but it's the kind of representation I wish I had growing up. What values guide this conversation? I value transparency, respect, and curiosity. I truly appreciate when people are willing to share their stories publicly on our platform. Throughout the guest experience, from prep to recording to release, I want every person to feel respected. You never know what someone is going through, and this should always be a positive and safe space. I'm naturally curious about everything, and the questions I ask are not pre-written or scripted. I believe our listeners will feel that authenticity and even chime in with questions we didn't think to ask. Who is this podcast for? Honestly, any adult, 18 and above, who's looking to learn about the many topics we'll cover from the masculine lesbian perspective, or just be entertained by the variety of personalities we'll meet. Our guests will include people I know and people I don't know, keeping things interesting as the podcast continues to progress. What can listeners expect? In each episode, we hope to have you meet friends of the podcast, aka people we know in real life, or guests of the podcast, people who have signed up to be a guest, or even our partners. We'll cover things like what's happening in our lives, what's happening on the interwebs, topics that dive into the masculine and lesbian experience, and hear from you, the listener. What do I hope people feel when they listen to the show? I hope people feel more connected to themselves and the wider community they're a part of. I hope they learn something new, laugh, reflect, and walk away with a deeper appreciation for the masculine and lesbian experience. At the end of the day, this podcast is about making sure no one feels they have to go through life unseen or misunderstood. How can you become a part of this community beyond listening? We have a special segment called Lost and Found that only airs when our listeners write in. You can reach out to us on any of our social media platforms at Unstrapped The Podcast. And your message might be read on the show. Whether it's a question, a story, a shout out, or advice you need, we're here for it. If this sounds like a podcast for you, check out an episode or two. Thank you so much for listening.